Good morning นะครับ everyone. How are you today ครับ Are you good? It seems like somebody is like waking up. Just wake up, right? Okay, right. Okay นะครับ so today we are going to continue talking about the topic that we studied from the last class นะครับ Okay, let me just like share you my screen first. Just one talk นะครับ Alright, okay. Okay, on the last class, we talk about the root นะครับ Okay, so when we talk about the root นะครับ we just like mention that okay, if r to the power of n equals to x นะครับ where n is a positive integer นะครับ then we say that okay, r นะครับ is the n root of x นะครับ r is the n root of x. This one belong. R is the n root of x นะครับ so whenever we would like to write it down in terms of the root symbol นะครับ R is the nth root of x is that you can write it down that okay, it's the nth root of x นะครับ it's the same thing, so that means นะครับ this one is a symbol to represent R is the n root of x นะครับ R is the n root of x is the same thing, so that means on the other way around นะครับ so if you would like to have x นะครับ that means you take yes
My friend said she's in the waiting room.
in the waiting room. Oh, okay, thanks for telling me ครับ okay, so R is the n root of x, that means if you would like to have like this way นะครับ you can write it down as R equals to the nth root of x like this, if you take the power n นะครับ on both sides นะครับ then you get R นะครับ to the n equals to x as well นะครับ okay, apart from this one, the next thing that I want to tell you is that when you have the symbol of the root นะครับ for example, if here you have the n root of x like this นะครับ you can also write it down as it is equal to x to the power of 1 over n นะครับ it's the same thing like this, so that's why on this one when we have r นะครับ to the n it's equals to x นะครับ to the n over n it's equals to x นะครับ like this, because you can see that in here if you take just like to the power of n นะครับ for the n root of x like this, you get x to the n over n, then you get x like this. We say that in here นะครับ for the case of n equals to 2 นะครับ n equals to 2 like this, we call it as นะครับ square root, and also นะครับ for the square root x like this, we can normally we just like write it as square root x without writing number 2 นะครับ on the root symbol นะครับ in here, so everyone knows that in here นะครับ it means the square root of x means it's the second root of x นะครับ like this นะครับ okay, so if n equals to 3 นะครับ if n equals to 3 นะครับ, this one we call it as cube root of x นะครับ we call it as cube root of x, so note that some numbers do not have n root นะครับ that is real number นะครับ, that is a real number since square of any real number is non-negative นะครับ in this one you can see that when we talk about the square root นะครับ the value of x that means the value of x in here must be positive only, must be positive only. For example, if you have root negative 5 here, it's undefined นะครับ it's undefined, you cannot find it นะครับ if it is a square root the value of x inside must be positive only. But if you have cube root นะครับ of negative 9 sorry, of negative 27 like this. Okay. This one is okay because นะครับ we say that okay, when we have the cube root นะครับ and you want to find out the value of cube root like this, you have to find some numbers นะครับ that multiply to each other นะครับ for 3 times. For example, like this, it is the cube root. So in this one นะครับ you can say that okay, cube root of negative 27 is equals to negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 นะครับ like this, or it's equivalent to cube root of negative 3 นะครับ to the power of 3 or negative 3 cube. In here, when you solve, you get negative 3 as the answer of this cube root. So you can see that in terms of the n นะครับ equals to the odd number like this นะครับ the value inside นะครับ can be negative values like this นะครับ okay, but anyway นะครับ just like for the power นะครับ or the index that is even number like square นะครับ square roots or the fourth root, something like that นะครับ the value inside must be the positive only นะครับ in this one. This is just like what I want to tell you in this one นะครับ okay, this was the last what we did or what we learned from the last class. Now let's move on นะครับ let's move on to the next slide. On the next slide นะครับ for the principle of n root นะครับ of x is that นะครับ it's positive นะครับ it's positive if x is positive นะครับ it's positive if x is positive นะครับ so for example, if we have square root 4, something like that นะครับ this one, you get the answer for this one to be positive number for sure. In this example, it's 2, something like that นะครับ but นะครับ if we say that negative of it will be negative if x is negative and n is odd like this, cube root of negative 27 in here for sure นะครับ you can see that this one x นะครับ or 27 is negative นะครับ n is odd นะครับ it's 3. So in this one, you get the answer that is negative 3 นะครับ this is principle and root of x นะครับ this one become the negative if the value of x is negative and the index is odd number. Okay, so when we call the root n of x นะครับ in here we call it as a radical นะครับ we call it as a radical นะครับ while n in here นะครับ is the index, and in here is the index นะครับ and x นะครับ is the radicand. The value inside here is called the radicand นะครับ and here in this example 3 is index like this นะครับ where the root symbol here is what called radical sign นะครับ or the root นะครับ the radical sign or the root nickname is the root นะครับ the formal name is radical นะครับ okay, so if x is positive นะครับ if x is positive นะครับ if x is positive, the expression x excuse me, the expression x to the power of p over q นะครับ can be defined as นะครับ you just like put the radicand symbol first, oh sorry, the radical sign symbol first, put x นะครับ and then you put the power of x here, that is p, while the dividend in here the divisor in here q will be the index นะครับ in here. So it will be the x root of x to the power of p นะครับ that is like x. So that means on the other way around, if you have the radical x นะครับ to the power of p นะครับ for the root of q in here you can change it back to be x to the power of p over q นะครับ so you can change it back and forth like this นะครับ so in order to write นะครับ as like x to the power of p over q or the q root of x to the power of p นะครับ you can do it when p and q they are integers นะครับ when p and q are integers and with no common factors นะครับ with no common factors and q is positive with no common factor what does it mean if you say that okay p is 4 and q is 2 what will happen x to the power of 4 over 2 like this one you have common factor because you have you can do the elimination like this so in this one it is x to the power of 2 instead นะครับ you cannot write it down as the one root of x square something like that we don't do like that นะครับ in this one the only thing that you can do at most you can do it as like square root นะครับ of x นะครับ to the power of 4 like this is okay but not with this one x to the power of 2 over 1 like this you cannot say that it is the one root of x square no นะครับ we don't have this นะครับ so that means the minimum number of root is square root นะครับ so if it is the common factor นะครับ between the dividend and divisor you have to find it first before you finalize what number or what kind of values that you can write down the expression like this one นะครับ okay so before I move on to the next slide do you have any questions on this slide ครับ okay if you don't have any questions นะครับ let's move on to the next slide okay. on the next slide นะครับ let's find some easy roots ครับ okay so in this one นะครับ I give you 3 minutes to do นะครับ I give you 3 minutes to do oh hang on I give you 5 minutes okay it should be 5 minutes to do and then I randomly call some of you to solve this problem นะครับ so let me set up the time first you can start now นะครับ just like you just like think of your own นะครับ how do we get this kind of values นะครับ try not to use calculator นะครับ try not to use calculator okay time's up นะครับ now let's see so Bam ครับ please answer นะครับ if you have your answer already just write it down okay now let's see นะครับ the first one for เตยนะครับ square root นะครับ 81 so everyone when you just like consider this thing นะครับ you have to be careful that you have to take a look on the index first นะครับ you can see that for the first 4 questions นะครับ they are all square root นะครับ index equals to 2 that means นะครับ for square root นะครับ or the fourth root นะครับ square root and fourth root if index equals to 2 or 4 or 6 นะครับ that are even numbers นะครับ the value of x นะครับ must be positive only otherwise you cannot find the answer นะครับ so in this one let me just screen first นะครับ for your answer ครับ question 1 to question 4 you can see that for the third one นะครับ this one is negative while the index is 2 นะครับ that means you cannot find the value of negative 144 นะครับ this one is wrong นะครับ it must be undefined นะครับ in this one you cannot find negative 144 square root of 144 in here okay are there anything else in this one for Bam's work นะครับ it is negative of sorry the cube root of negative 343 if you remember in the previous slide I told you that for the value of n root of x นะครับ x can be negative if n is odd number and 3 is odd this one is okay นะครับ this one is okay you can have negative number inside นะครับ this one is okay, it's possible. Okay, now the next thing we just consider the rest of like the calculation. When you do the calculation here, square root นะครับ means that you have to find some number นะครับ that when it multiply together for 2 times นะครับ it has like it is that value. So for 90 for square root 81, it is square root of 9 times 9 or equals to square root 9 square or equals to 9 to the power of 2 over 2 because it's a square root, right? So in here it is 9. Yeah, that's correct. Next one นะครับ for this one it is just a bit calculation here นะครับ square root 196 นะครับ is like equals to square root of นะครับ 14 times 14 นะครับ equals to square root of 14 square นะครับ equals to 14 to the power of 2 over 2 equals to 14. That's correct ครับ for number 3 นะครับ negative square root negative 144 is undefined นะครับ so this is undefined. Next นะครับ square root of 1024 in this one นะครับ when you have like calculation when you have number like quite big number like this, the way that you may have to do is that you think first which number that can help us. For example, you may use like some prime number นะครับ 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 something like that. So in this one, if I say that I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, I know because I mean like I am a computer man, so I know that 1024 come from you multiply 2 together นะครับ so in this one you get like you multiply many 2's together in here นะครับ and then you can see that this one it's equals to square root of 2 to the power of, so it's equivalent to 2 to the power of 10 over 2, that is 2 to the power of 5, that is 32 นะครับ so this is correct. Okay, next นะครับ we talk about cube root. For the cube root นะครับ of or the third root of 343, that means you have to find some numbers นะครับ that multiply together and you have negative 343. This one is a bit tricky because it's the cube root นะครับ so when you multiply negative number for 3 times you get the negative values นะครับ so in this one it means that you get the cube root of negative 7 times negative 7 times negative 7 นะครับ or you get cube root of negative 7 cube นะครับ or you get negative 7 to the power of 3 over 3, then you get negative 7 as the answer นะครับ the next one นะครับ cube root of 125 นะครับ cube root of 125 here is 5 times 5 times 5 นะครับ cube root of it, then you get cube root of 5 to the 3 or 5 cube, then you get 5 to the power of 3 over 3 นะครับ then you get 5 as the answer นะครับ okay, so นะครับ this is the work that you did นะครับ for the last one นะครับ this is correct, this is correct, correct and correct. Now the last one นะครับ fourth root of 729, this is a bit difficult นะครับ in here let's see for what Dino answer นะครับ the way he did was that he answered like this, he answered 5, so let's test นะครับ if you multiply 5 for 4 times what do you get? 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, that means you get 125, 5 times 5 is 25, 25 times 25 นะครับ is that you get 625 นะครับ, it's still not correct one นะครับ but what about 6? if you have like 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 what do we get นะครับ okay 6 times 6 is 36 นะครับ then you have 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 that means you have 36 square นะครับ 1296 it's over นะครับ so that means the answer for this one must be 5 point something นะครับ actually the answer is 5.196 นะครับ 5.196 so in this one if it is not just like the I mean if it is not the integer number you may leave it as like the root of 729 like this นะครับ for me I'm okay with it นะครับ because otherwise if you have to find out like the decimal points like that it wastes your time if you have to calculate manually นะครับ okay right so before I move on to the next slide do you have any questions for this page
อาจารย์ I have a question ครับ
yes ครับ
so for the even root นะครับหมายถึงว่ากำลังฐานเลขคู่ครับ
yeah the index that is even number yeah
หมายถึงว่ารูทที่เป็นกำลังเลขคู่ครับอย่างเช่นแบบรูท2รูท4อะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับ
yeah that is hang on listen to me first we call it as the index is even number
oh alright.
because square root or fourth root square or fourth or six those are like the index number of your root yeah so
alright so for the even index root นะครับ can the result be both positive and negative
resolve right resolve you mean on the right hand side like this one right
yeah like 9 can it be like negative 9 and 9
no ครับ cannot the result of even roots นะครับ the result must be only positive and the value inside must also be positive too you cannot have negative values ครับ for the even root ครับ this is the rule นะครับ you will learn more from more example นะครับ but right now just keep in mind when it is even numbers นะครับ for the index นะครับ the answer นะครับ and the value inside must be positive only otherwise it will be undefined ครับ okay for example some of you may say that okay can we have square root of negative 4 or not in this one no นะครับ because the value inside must be positive only and if you say that if we have square root x equals to negative 2 what is the value of x like this it's undefined as well because it's impossible นะครับ the value of square root or fourth root of something must be positive only the negative value like this is impossible นะครับ so it's undefined so is it clear ครับธนินรัตน์
ครับ but สมมตินะครับว่าสมมติข้อแรกครับถ้าเกิดคำตอบเป็น9แล้วถ้ามันเป็น-9อย่างเงี้ยครับ-9คูณ-9มันก็81ป่ะครับอาจารย์
yes negative 9 times negative 9 is 81 but because it is the square root it doesn't allow anything inside to be negative ครับ so that's why you cannot have like minus 9 as the answer but if you say that can we have this square root minus 9 times minus 9 this is okay นะครับ because when you solve in this one you get square root 81 anyway this one is okay but square root negative 81 is not okay ครับ
okay ครับ thank you
okay ครับ so what about other of you ครับ do you have any questions
I have a question for the last one. So how do we answer that one again?
so you can answer like this ครับ you leave it as is you just leave it as square root fourth root of 729 like this just that ครับ in this
Okay.
class you don't need to just like find it as like 5.19 no need leave it as is like this but if it is let's say 125 to the cube root like this you have to find the answer นะครับ because this is easy to find and the answer is the integer but if the answer is the decimal numbers like this you don't need to do okay you know what I mean this one
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome ครับ so any other questions ครับ anyone if there is no question นะครับ let's move on to the next slide ครับ so in the next slide นะครับ okay let me start my slide in here for the next slide it's the law นะครับ basic law of radicals that you should know นะครับ that you should know the first one นะครับ this one we talked about it in the previous couple of slides already นะครับ I told you that okay if you have x นะครับ to the p over q you can write it down as q root of x to the power of p like this but in this case นะครับ you can see that in this case p is 1 that's why you can get that okay x to the power of 1 over q is the q root of x นะครับ x to the power of 1 over n equals to n root of x นะครับ for example if we have x นะครับ to the power of 1 over 2 นะครับ it's equals to นะครับ square root of x to the power of 1 equals to square root of x นะครับ in here นะครับ can someone find for me if you have 27 to the power of 1 over 3 what do we get ครับ 27 to the 1 over 3 what do we get 3 that's correct นะครับ so in this one we get cube root of 27 and inside we can have the cube root of 3 cube นะครับ then we get 3 to the 3 over 3 then you get 3 as the answer นะครับ okay now the next rule นะครับ x to the power of negative 1 over n negative 1 over n นะครับ if you remember นะครับ when we study before if we have x to the power of negative 2 it's equals to 1 นะครับ over x square something like that นะครับ in here it's the same but instead of having the integer as the power we have the fraction นะครับ as a power instead so in here นะครับ in here you can see that x to the power of negative 1 over n it's equals to 1 over x to the power of 1 over n นะครับ we just move this value นะครับ to be the divisor in here and we remove the negative symbol out นะครับ so in this one นะครับ I want one of you to help me Tara are you here oh okay Tara can you write down for me in this one can you write it in the form of the root symbol please in the form of radical please in this one how can you write it in the form of the root like this one okay how can you write this one to be Almost correct.
I'm not sure.
Almost correct. Almost correct. You just add something more and it makes your answer complete. Just a little bit more. Can somebody help Tara? If no, I can help you. You just put this one. Just that. Or somebody said that, can I write it like this? 1 over x n. The same. Okay, everyone, you understand this? It can be changed into these two forms because the n root of 1 นะครับ you get 1 anyway. That's why you can just like move 1 into inside this n root, the same thing นะครับ okay. So for the example in here, for example, we have 4 นะครับ we have 4 to the power of negative 1 over 2. In this one, it's equals to 1 over 4 to the power of 1 over 2 equals to 1 over square root 4 equals to 1 over square root 2 times 2 equals to 1 over 2 นะครับ Next นะครับ the next law is that square root, sorry, not square root, the n root of x times the n root of y นะครับ n root of x times n root of y, we get n root of x times y นะครับ so that means if the index are equals นะครับ are the same and then there are two terms that are multiplying like this, so you just put the radical นะครับ symbol here, put the n นะครับ and then inside it will be x times y นะครับ multiply together นะครับ be careful นะครับ for multiplication it works, but if it is addition or subtraction cannot be applied with this rule นะครับ must be multiplication only or division only นะครับ like in for the division is in law number 14. Okay, now let's see นะครับ for the example here, if we have cube root นะครับ of 8 นะครับ times cube root of 8 นะครับ in here it's equals to cube root of 8 times 8 นะครับ equals to cube root of 64, right? Equals to cube root of 4 times 4 times 4 equals to 4 นะครับ. This is the example of the radicals นะครับ in the same index, you multiply them together นะครับ is equivalent to the radical of that two numbers multiplying together. Okay. So for the next rule นะครับ this is the division. If you have two radicals that are divided together นะครับ to each other, and then for the index นะครับ of the radical นะครับ they are the same. In here you can make it to be one big radical นะครับ of that two numbers divided together นะครับ with that index number n, like this. For the example นะครับ, if you have square root, sorry, if you have square root of 8 นะครับ okay, I put number 2 so that you know that this is index is 2 นะครับ, divided by square root of 2 นะครับ in this one so as they are the same index number for these two radicals then you can have square root of 8 over 2 นะครับ in here then you from the elimination นะครับ you can have square root 4 that means you can have 2 as the answer okay right so for this slide do you have any questions for the basic law of the radicals So if you don't have any questions นะครับ let's move on to the next slide นะครับ next set of law for the next set of law number 16 นะครับ if you have the radicals นะครับ in sorry that covers another radical for example in here you have n root of x นะครับ and then in here นะครับ sorry that covered by m root นะครับ in here so when you have this นะครับ you can just like make this one to be the root of the m times n root of x นะครับ in here okay so if you have just like two levels of the root like this นะครับ you can change it to become the x root sorry the m times n นะครับ you multiply index together of the term x นะครับ let me just like show you the example so that you can just like see this one easily assume that you have square sorry if you have like the cube root of square root 64 นะครับ cube root of square root 64 in this one นะครับ the things that we can do is that you get the root of 3 times 2 of 64 นะครับ that means you get 6 root of 64 for 6 root of 64 it's equivalent to 6 root of 6 root of 2 to the power of 6 equals to 2 นะครับ as the answer นะครับ somebody say that okay how can we change นะครับ from the radical symbol to be in terms of the exponents นะครับ in this one actually they are the same นะครับ the same I'll just like show you how we're gonna do it from the same rule นะครับ in here if you just like make it to be easy นะครับ I just write like it down like this first you have the m root of x to the power of 1 over n isn't it the same thing because we learned from the previous slide that x the n root of x นะครับ is x to the power of 1 over n yeah this one and after that we say that from this one it's equivalent to x to the power of 1 over n นะครับ of like 1 over m in here and as we learned before if we have the exponent like this you multiply them together นะครับ like if we have x นะครับ cube นะครับ square in here it's like when it's like when you have x cube times 2 equals to x to the power of 6 like this the same rule นะครับ we apply we get x to the power of 1 over n times 1 over m equals to x to the power of 1 over nm and if we change it back to be radical symbol it will be nm root of x นะครับ the same right if you see that one you get the same thing as I wrote in here นะครับ the next thing นะครับ okay when we get this example already นะครับ you can write it down in form of radical or in form exponent นะครับ depends on what you want นะครับ that can make the solution to be done easier นะครับ okay so for this law do you have any question ครับ if no นะครับ let me move on to the law number 17 in number 17 x to the power of m over n equals to n root of x to the power of m นะครับ equals to นะครับ n root of x นะครับ to the power of m like this นะครับ for example if we have 5 to the power of 4 over 2 นะครับ you can see that for the example that I give it to you I don't do the elimination of 2 and 4 to be 5 square นะครับ because I just want to show you that if I change it to be the radical symbol how it looks like นะครับ okay so in this one if you change it to be the symbol that I told you it's equivalent to be square root of 5 to the power of 4 like this นะครับ or you can change it to be นะครับ square root of 5 นะครับ to the power of 4 like this the same นะครับ the same because of what in this example นะครับ in this one นะครับ okay I just write it properly it is equivalent to square root of 5 to the power of 4 like this without writing number 2 นะครับ on the index so that you not be confused square root of 5 นะครับ to the power of 4 is equivalent to square root 5 times square root 5 times square root 5 times square root 5 like this นะครับ and when you have this นะครับ it is equivalent to square root of 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 if you remember we learned already that if we have the same root นะครับ multiplied together you can multiply the same the terms inside together and have the big root outside นะครับ something like that so that means in this one you have square the square root of 5 to the power of 4 or you can write it back to be square root of 5 sorry you can write it down in terms of exponent นะครับ to be 5 to the power of 4 over 2 นะครับ you can write back and forth like this for this law do you have any questions ครับ anyone if no นะครับ let's move on to law number 18 in here นะครับ it said that if we have m root of x to the power of m นะครับ it's equal to x นะครับ it's equal to x in here นะครับ we have couple of way to prove นะครับ we have couple of ways to prove นะครับ the first way is that you know that if we try to write it down นะครับ in terms of the exponents นะครับ you can see that in here firstly นะครับ from the rule that we have got before นะครับ square root sorry m root of x นะครับ to the power of m you can put m to be inside so it means that you get นะครับ you get m root of x to the power of m like this นะครับ and if you change it to be in the form of exponent it will be x to the power of m over m that's why we get x นะครับ in here or if you want to make it like to be just like straightforwardly when you have x sorry m root of x นะครับ to the power of m you have like this you have the term of m root of x multiplied by m root of x นะครับ multiplied by m root of x นะครับ altogether for m times and then in this one นะครับ you get square root of m m root of x to the power of m like this นะครับ and then you just like change it to be x to the power of m over m นะครับ that is the x นะครับ okay now let me give you an example นะครับ in this one if you have fourth root of 6 นะครับ to the power of 4 in here นะครับ for sure if you apply this rule it's equals to 6 but how can we get 6 นะครับ because in this one for the fourth root of 6 นะครับ to the power of 4 is equivalent to fourth root of 6 times fourth root of 6 นะครับ times fourth root of 6 and times fourth root of 6 นะครับ or if you just like change it to be in term of exponent you get 6 to the power of 1 over 4 times 6 to the 1 over 4 for 4 times from this number you get 6 to the power of 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4 you get นะครับ you get hang on you will get 6 to the power of 4 over 4 that means you get 6 as the answer นะครับ for this one okay this is law number 18 นะครับ for the basic radical okay for this law นะครับ law number 18 do you have any questions
อาจารย์คะ
yes ครับ
for the test next week do we have to show like all this working
I'm sorry can you please speak louder
for the
you said
test
that on the next week test so
yeah. Do we have to show all this working
yes
what will be graded if our working is different
it's okay ครับ because you can see that I show you many different ways for calculation right so your answer if your answer is correct and you show me the steps properly you get the full score doesn't matter your steps are same or different I don't mind นะครับครับ you're welcome ครับ any other question ครับ anyone okay so if you don't have any questions นะครับ let's move on to the next slide นะครับ for the next slide once again I want you to do it for me นะครับ this one we have 5 questions นะครับ question 16 to 20 it's about the radical and exponents นะครับ in this form okay so please do this one ครับ I give you 5 minutes นะครับ I give you 5 minutes and then I will random some of you นะครับ I will random some of you to help answering this question นะครับ just do it first ครับ so I will assign it to you later on who will do this one okay while Angel is like writing her answer นะครับ let me just like show you for question number 16 นะครับ by ลูกศร first นะครับ for this one you can see that what she did was just like try to distribute นะครับ try to distribute the exponent นะครับ and the radical into each sorry and the radical into each number in here sorry so that means in this one นะครับ you can write it down in form of the square root, yeah, this is correct. Square root of 1 over 4 นะครับ to the power of 3 like this นะครับ so it is 1 over 4 times 4 times 4 นะครับ yeah and then it is square root 1 over นะครับ 64 or you can write it as like square root of 1 over 8 times 8 times 8 นะครับ equals to 1 นะครับ over นะครับ sorry not 8 times 8 times 8 8 times 8 I'm sorry ครับ that is square root of 1 over square root 8 that is 1 over 8 like this is correct นะครับ okay now let me just like Angel ครับ do you finish or you want to write something more I can give you some time
finish ค่ะ
okay that's good now let's move on to the second one นะครับ the second one นะครับ from Angel the way that she did was the same as ลูกศร did by just changing from the exponent symbol to be the radical one so in this one she just like change this form นะครับ to be the cube root of negative 8 over 27 นะครับนะครับ to the power of 4 to the power of 4 here this one is correct after that นะครับ okay she tried to just like simplify this form นะครับ by just like hang on let me see this one นะครับ Angel you have to be careful a bit it seems like when you just like try to simplify it as a second time the negative symbol is missing ครับ you have to write it down somewhere นะครับ when you have the negative symbol like this it must be appear นะครับ on the denominator or divisor นะครับ the dividend or divisor for example I put it on here นะครับ because it is to the power of 4 นะครับ it is even exponent like this when you multiply 8 and negative 8 นะครับ for 4 times like this you get the positive number for sure or even though you just like put negative symbol on 27 instead 27 to the power of 4 you get positive number as well นะครับ so I mean that's why she get like the correct step after this but be careful นะครับ if you just like forget negative symbol นะครับ on one of these term นะครับ the score will be deducted as well นะครับ then you have to put it somewhere in this one if I put it in here นะครับ then in here we still have the cube root of นะครับ this is 2 to the power of 3 นะครับ she changed นะครับ 8 to be 2 to the power of 3 or 2 cube instead over นะครับ 27 is 3 to the power of 3 or 3 cube นะครับ altogether here it's to the power of 4 and after that นะครับ she just like distribute 4 นะครับ into each term so it will be multiplication นะครับ because 2 to the power of 3 นะครับ altogether to the power of 4 is 2 to the power of 3 times 4 that is 2 to the power of 12 นะครับ yeah this is correct and for 3 นะครับ 3 to the power of 3 นะครับ altogether to the power of 4 is 3 to the power of 12 as well and then นะครับ she changed back the radical symbol back to be the exponent symbol again that is 1 over 3 and after that she distribute 1 over 3 in each term นะครับ both dividend and divisor then she get 2 to the power of 12 นะครับ over 3 that is 2 to the power of 4 นะครับ divided by 3 to the power of 12 over 3 that is 3 to the power of 4 as well นะครับ that is 16 over 81 นะครับ this is correct answer ครับ okay next นะครับ for Chanon นะครับ what he did was that he just like changed from exponent to be radical นะครับ as well นะครับ as I mentioned earlier you can just like when you have the exponent symbol นะครับ from the terms that are multiplying inside you have to distribute this exponent into each term equally นะครับ or in this one นะครับ when he wants to do he can just like make it to be like 64a cube นะครับ altogether square นะครับ like this one นะครับ like this one and then to the power of like 2 over 3 here for the 2 over 3 he turns it to be the cube root นะครับ to the cube root so this one it means that he has cube root of 64a cube นะครับ altogether นะครับ square like this so in here for 64 it is 4 times 4 times 4 or 4 cube a cube นะครับ to the power of 3 in here you can just like make it to become cube root of 4 cube root times cube root of a cube then you can just like get 4 times a instead นะครับ in here this is what he gets นะครับ and then altogether square like this so the answer is 16 square 16a square sorry this is correct too นะครับ 16a square that's good นะครับ very good ครับชานนท์ and the next one นะครับ for max I understand that you try your best นะครับ to find out what square root 5 is and you get like 2.23 นะครับ that's a good attempt นะครับ but I mean like in this one if you just like have to ask if you ask to simplify this term นะครับ it means that you just like make this one to be in other forms that is different from what we write in here นะครับ apart from writing down like this นะครับ you can just like make it to be like easier you can see that actually 2 in here นะครับ 2 in here นะครับ okay it means that okay it means that you can have it as like here นะครับ 2 actually it is you can write it down as square root 4 isn't it for 2 and then on the divisor you have square root 5 here right so you can turn it to be square root 4 over 5 like this this is one form of simplification as well นะครับ you can write it like this but I think I like what Max tried to do นะครับ he tried his best to get like this one to over 2.23 but I mean if I just like let you make it to simplify in terms of the radical นะครับ square root 4 over 5 might be just like simpler นะครับ than 2 over 2.23 something like that นะครับ okay and the last one นะครับ and the last one 2 over 6 root นะครับ of 3x to the power of 5 equals to what นะครับ in here นะครับ in here the way in order to simplify this one นะครับ similar to what question 19 that I did นะครับ so I try to make 2 นะครับ to be inside this one นะครับ how can I do นะครับ you can see that okay for 6 root นะครับ if you want to make 2 นะครับ in form of the 6 root it is like 2 to the power of 6 over 6 isn't it class can somebody tell me ครับ Lemon ครับ tell me 2 to the power of 6 over 6 what do I get ครับ
2 ค่ะ
2 that's right ครับ so that means if you have the exponent นะครับ that are common factor like this นะครับ it's equal to 2 right everyone you understand this one right okay this fact so when you get this one นะครับ what can we do about this when I know that I can write 2 in form of 2 to the power of 6 over 6 นะครับ then I can write it down here นะครับ I can write it down that okay it is 2 to the power of 6 over 6 divided by 3x to the power of 5 นะครับ to the power of 1 over 6 here and then I just like make it to be in the form of นะครับ 6 นะครับ to the power of 6 over 3x to the power of 5 altogether to the power of 1 over 6 ครับ and from this one we can, if you want to write it down in terms of the radical, if you leave like this นะครับ this is in terms of the exponent นะครับ but in order to simplify you write it down in terms of radical it might be easier นะครับ in this one it will be 6 root of 2 to the power of 6 นะครับ over 3x นะครับ 3x to the power of 5 นะครับ or you can write it down as 6 root of 64 over 3x to the power of 5 like this as well นะครับ this is the to simplify this term นะครับ you can write it in this way. All right. Okay, so any question for these examples that your classmate try to help to fix this problem ครับ
อาจารย์ I have a question ครับ
yes ครับ
ครับsorry I don't know how to say this in English but for number 19 can I like คือผมกำลังสองทั้งบนล่างได้ไหมครับ
if you put the square on both right
yes
cannot ครับ cannot because of what okay so for other people hang on นะครับ if none of you have the question I clear this page first so that Taninrat can just like show us how to do any other question ครับ for question 16 to 20 if you have question นะครับ yes ครับ
for oh sorry for number 19 หนูคูณล่างบนกับ square root 5 เหมือนกันนะคะ
Okay, that is question 19 as well. Okay, any other question for other example number ครับ if no I clear out this page first นะครับ so that we have space for us to discuss about this นะครับ if you have number of from other example นะครับ just keep your question in mind and when I just like show you for question 19 with like alternative already then you can just like discuss with other question นะครับ okay so can we begin with hang on นะครับ can we begin with Taninrat first ครับ in question 19 what would you like to do นะครับ can you write it down on the screen
ครับ
ประพัฒน์สอน just wait นะครับ I'll show you later this one right you cannot do that ครับ the reason is because in this one นะครับ hang on let me just write it down how can you have square on both ครับ if 2 นะครับ if you have 2 to the power of 2 over 2 this one is acceptable because I just do elimination 2 to the power of 2 over 2 equals to 2 but in this one 2 square here นะครับ there's no reason to have the square here ครับ because you cannot eliminate anything you know what I mean that's why you cannot take the square like this on both but if you have the equation นะครับ for example you have equation like 2 to the power of 2 over square root 5 equals to x นะครับ like this in this one you have the reasons to take square on both sides this one is acceptable because it's equation but for us in this one this is not equation ครับ you cannot do it okay
โอเคครับ เข้าใจแล้วครับ thank you
โอเคครับ next ครับประภัสสอน right you asked me before isn't it
no
so who asked me ครับ the
Sia
other
ค่ะ
lady ใครนะครับ which one
ปิยาพรค่ะ
Siapon also sorry because your name are just like connect to each other in Zoom yeah ครับ Siapon ครับ what would you like to ask ครับ
ของหนูคูณ square root 5 บนล่างเลยอะค่ะ ก็เลย
Can
ได้
you
2
yeah
ได้
can you just like show me write it down on the screen please
Okay I'm not
Then
sure
you-
if it's correct though
okay let's try if it's not correct I'll fix it for you ครับ yes this one is okay ครับ this is acceptable why is that because okay for what Siapon did นะครับ originally we have 2 over square root 5 right and then she tried to multiply square root 5 over square root 5 on both this one you can see that if we eliminate นะครับ if we eliminate you still get like 2 over square root 5 anyway so that's why in this one is acceptable you know what I mean this one so that means when she does like this the things that she get is that she gets 2 square root 5 over 5 or 2 over 5 square root 5 like this. This is the answer. This is one form of simplification ครับ Okay, this is correct. Okay, any other questions ครับ for this one? Siapon, this is good job นะครับ You have a good simplification for this one.
So for the test there are many possible answers
If it is simplification, yes ครับ for some of them.
ได้ขอบคุณค่ะ
Okay, so if we don't have any question นะครับ let's move on to the next slide นะครับ For the next slide there will be just like the thing that I asked you to do as well นะครับ I want you hang on so in this one I want you to do this one นะครับ okay for example 21 to 23 ครับ so everyone ครับ please spend 5 minutes นะครับ I give you 7 minutes because it is just like a bit difficult for these three นะครับ 7 minutes to do these 3 questions ครับ 7 minutes to do these 3 questions for me please okay for number 21 นะครับ for number 21 Pan, you cannot do it okay no problem ครับ I just like show you how to do นะครับ okay while Shasha and Max นะครับ you just like continue doing yours นะครับ in example number 21 นะครับ the things that you may have to do in this one นะครับ because it is square root นะครับ you can distribute นะครับ you can distribute the square root into each term นะครับ if you remember นะครับ we can just like make this one นะครับ we can make this one to become like in term of exponent so that means in this one for 12 I will make it to be the term that is like 3 times 4 นะครับ so that I can just like separate them because 4 can be just like be the 2 square นะครับ so I'll have like 3 นะครับ to the power of 1 over 2 times 2 นะครับ to the power of 2 over 2 times x square นะครับ over 2 นะครับ y to the power of negative 5 over 2 นะครับ z to the power of 3 over 2 นะครับ this is what I did after that นะครับ after that I just change it to be square root 3 นะครับ times 2 times x นะครับ times นะครับ y to the power of negative 5 over 2 and times z to the power of 3 over 2 in here นะครับ anything that is the negative exponent นะครับ I put it down นะครับ to be the divisor then I have square root 3 times 2 times x นะครับ times z to the power of 3 over 2 นะครับ over นะครับ y to the power of 5 over 2 instead นะครับ in here then I just like put it นะครับ to be 2x นะครับ I just rearrange it นะครับ times square root ครับ 3z to the power of 3 over y to the power of 5 ครับ so this is the way that I simplify this ครับ okay นะครับ that should be all for this because I can just like move out 2x นะครับ and then I just like make negative exponent to be just like the divisor นะครับ this is the first one next one นะครับ okay Shasha do you finish yet ครับ
yes ค่ะ แต่ว่า
okay
ไม่น่าจะถูกค่ะ
no problem ครับ that's okay yeah we just like have a good try at least นะครับ so for this one นะครับ Shasha I just like suggest you for 27 if you write it down as 3 cube it is easier so that you can see that you can eliminate easily นะครับ in this one okay
ได้ค่ะ
ครับ now let's see นะครับ for this one นะครับ what Shasha did for us is that she just tried to simplify this term นะครับ in this one Shasha what is this term ครับ can you tell me y to the power of 6 right
yes
okay ครับ y to the power of 6 and then she put up นะครับ the negative นะครับ exponent up here นะครับ to be z to the power of 6 divided by 256 this is okay next นะครับ she has cube root and then she just like try to make 27 to be 3 cube xy to the power of 6 over 256 yes that's correct and then the next thing is that she just like make 3 to be outside the cube root yeah this is okay y square นะครับ so this is because she got like y to the power of 6 นะครับ over 3 then she has y square this is correct นะครับ and z to the power of 6 here is z square too นะครับ y x นะครับ while x นะครับ is just the x to the power of 1 นะครับ so this one must still be in the root นะครับ it's a cube root of x yeah that is correct over นะครับ the cube root of 256 this is correct ครับ or you can write it down as 3y square z square of the cube root of x over 256 like this is okay too นะครับ this is correct ครับ Shasha that is good นะครับ the last one ครับ what Max did was that he tried to just like simplify this okay let me just see okay he wrote as 8x cube over 1 sorry he tried to just like change 125 to be 5 cube like this y to the 6 z to the 9 yeah this one is correct and then in this one it seems like for y and z นะครับ can be moved out because y to the power of 6 over 6 นะครับ and z to the power of 9 over 6 here นะครับ in here what we get is that นะครับ we get y to be outside yeah that's correct but for z นะครับ for z in here นะครับ in here you can see that we have z to be outside too yeah and we still have z to the power of 9 because actually z to the power of 9 over 6 is z to the power of 6 over 6 นะครับ times z to the power of 3 over 6 like this. Then for the I mean exponent like this, we have 6 times 3 over 6 altogether นะครับ and the rest of them นะครับ inside the root นะครับ we have 8 นะครับ to the power of sorry 8 to the power of 3 นะครับ times x cube yeah over 5 to the power of 3 นะครับ times z to the power of 3 yes that's correct. So in here he gets 1 over yz and then we still have the 6 root inside to have like 8 times 9 sorry 8 times x cube นะครับ 8 times x cube over นะครับ 5 to the power of 3 that is 125 นะครับ z cube นะครับ okay this is correct ครับ so this one is correct too นะครับ if you rewrite it you have like 1 over yzนะครับ times sorry times 6 root นะครับ of 8x cube over 125 นะครับ z cube like this นะครับ this is the way to simplify and this is the most we can simplify this นะครับ we can't do anything more about this นะครับ okay any question for these 3 example ครับ everyone
ข้อ22หนู
Yes.
เอาติดแบบมันจะคือหนูทำ256เป็น4 กำลัง 4แล้วก็เลยดึงออกมาเป็น3 ส่วน 4 y กำลัง 2 z กำลัง 2 ส่วนรูท 3 x ส่วน 4แล้วก็ติด4ไว้ในรูท 3ได้ไหมคะ
hang on can you please show us
แบบ
just write it down for me please
โอเคค่ะ
Let me just okay can you write it down please
โอเคค่ะคือเหมือนค่ะคือตอนแรกมันจะเป็น 256แล้วทีนี้โอ้ยหนูก็ติดเป็นแบบนี้ได้ปะคะเพ
or
ราะว่าหนูเอา256เป็น4 กำลัง 4
so you say that it is in this one you want to be 4 cube times 4 right and then you move 4 to be outside yes ครับ you can ครับ
หรือว่า
This one is
แบบไหนดีกว่า
both of them are okay ครับ
โอเคค่ะ
ครับ okay right any other questions ครับ anyone if you don't have any question นะครับ let's have a small like 2 slide นะครับ before we finish the class for this one นะครับ so you can see that in here นะครับ okay let me just like stop sharing first and do sharing again sorry นะครับ today we just like running a bit late นะครับ just give me a couple of minutes before I just let you go today นะครับ so we have factors นะครับ when we talk about the factors if we have two numbers นะครับ c and d นะครับ that are integers and then d divided by c นะครับ with a zero remainder นะครับ with a zero remainder then d is a factor of c นะครับ then d is a factor of c นะครับ so in here นะครับ for example if c is 18 d is 3 นะครับ you can see that in here if we have 18 over 3 นะครับ here นะครับ you can see that the remainder is 0 this one นะครับ you can see that c is divisible by d นะครับ then in this one นะครับ we can say that okay 3 is a factor of c นะครับ 3 is a factor of 18 in this case 3 is a factor of 18 another one นะครับ another example if we try to divide 91 by 7 like this นะครับ you get 13 as a result with 0 remainder นะครับ in here remainder is 0 as well so 7 is a factor of 91 and lastly นะครับ you divide these two numbers นะครับ together นะครับ you divide 101 by itself นะครับ in here the answer is 1 with no remainder นะครับ so we can see that 101 itself is a factor of 101 นะครับ when I talk about or when I refer to the term factor it is like this นะครับ and for the last slide นะครับ for this chapter นะครับ we talk about absolute value absolute value of the real number x can be written as นะครับ you have small vertical line นะครับ between this number นะครับ x like this นะครับ it is defined by absolute x equals to x if x is greater than 0 นะครับ and it is minus x if x is less than 0 นะครับ if x is less than 0 นะครับ so for example if you have absolute negative 3 นะครับ you can see that absolute negative 3 นะครับ x is negative 3 is less than 0 then absolute x is negative x that is positive 3 but if x is positive like absolute 5 here นะครับ x is greater than 0 in here then นะครับ absolute 5 is 5 something like this so that means if you put absolute value to any value you always have the answer that is positive นะครับ you always have the answer that is positive นะครับ so นะครับ the note in here we say that negative absolute of negative x equals to absolute x นะครับ for example absolute negative 3 equals to absolute 3 นะครับ because you can see that absolute negative 3 you get 3 as the answer absolute 3 you get 3 as the answer นะครับ when you put absolute in it means that you want to make the answer to become positive นะครับ then you get 3 the next one absolute of negative x is not necessarily x for example นะครับ absolute negative 5 นะครับ I'm sorry this one I just have to put this one is easier for example if x is what to say in here negative 3 นะครับ if if absolute minus 3 in here นะครับ in here you can see that the value inside is negative 3 you get the answer as 3 right so 3 and negative 3 are not equal นะครับ so it means that you cannot imply that negative x and x are the same number because when you have negative of absolute of negative x here you try to make this value to become positive นะครับ so that means okay negative x if you say that negative absolute of negative x is 3 it doesn't tell you that x equals to 3 นะครับ x can be negative 3 or x can be positive 3 นะครับ depends on the case that you have to solve and lastly นะครับ and lastly the things that is the note is that square root of x square นะครับ is not necessarily x but square root x square equals to absolute x นะครับ so that means square root of negative 5 square นะครับ actually is not equals to 5 in here but square root of negative 5 square in here นะครับ equals to absolute x absolute 5 sorry because in this one นะครับ you get the answer that is 5 on both sides นะครับ but you can see that the value here it is negative 5 while the right hand side the value that you put in negative is in the absolute is positive 5 นะครับ this is the note for this one so that means when you have to find out any square root of the x square นะครับ as like one of you told me before นะครับ for the x square here the value inside the value inside the square root in here you can see that the whole term you have to get the positive number but you can see that in this example you have negative 5 in here that is the negative value right in the square root but you have the square to make it become the positive first so that's why this one you can find the answer but if you have square root negative 25 like this it's undefined because the value inside the square root must be positive only นะครับ something like this this is what you have to know about the properties of the absolute value นะครับ okay then นะครับ everyone up to this point do you have any questions so if you don't have any question นะครับ I will put some exercises for you นะครับ so that you can practice but this is you don't need to submit me anything นะครับ I just give you the example with the solution นะครับ so that you know how you're gonna do simplification about like these radicals and these real numbers and these exponents so that you can get the idea นะครับ what are we going to do it's quite similar to like the example that I gave you in the class to let you do it นะครับ I'll just like give it to you on the canvas นะครับ so that means on the next class we will meet each other นะครับ at 10 o'clock นะครับ as usual but the quiz will be started at 10:20 so if you don't want to meet me at 10 o'clock นะครับ up to you you can just like practice of your own first but I mean like I'll be in the Zoom since 10 o'clock if you have any question to ask me you can ask me first before we start the quiz okay and the quiz we have 30 minutes นะครับ to do after we finish the quiz we'll continue studying on chapter 2 นะครับ and while we don't meet each other until the next Tuesday if you have any question feel free to ask me in our line group